What's up, Dave?
Les, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Um, as you know, before the season started, I probably said about a dozen times, this is probably your best defensive line group you had coming together, going into the season. How have they lived up to that billing yet, or is there still work to do?
We're still a work in progress, Les. Um, Obviously, we came out of NC State disappointed, and I think we've improved from that point moving forward. But we're still a work in progress. We're getting better. We're playing harder each game, and I see improvement coming continued, and I look forward to watching it. But no, we're still a work in progress.
What's made you happy so far through the first 6 games?
I would say the last 4 games, how hard we've played, how hard we've competed. Some of the plays guys were making across the field and, run away or passes away and chasing that stuff down has been something I'm really proud of them about.
What's the path? What do you want to see in the next set of 5 games? What are you looking for in terms of improvement? What's been the focus points during this bye week?
Beating blocks, both run and pass. I think we've got to get better at that. Just clearly defeating people one-on-one. And the effort's there, the hardness is there, but we've got a complete victory on one-on-one blocks, and that will allow us to make more plays.
Dave, you had an opportunity to get a couple of your freshmen in, and without the 4-game rule really being a factor now too, has it been kind of beneficial to just get those guys those live game reps, even if it's the end of games, just to see what they can do and get used to that?
It is. I think the biggest thing about that is you look at a guy like Will Smart or Josheen Davis would be the 2 names that come to if we were to have specific injuries, I think they would be in a better position and less wide-eyed or overwhelmed at the opportunity to play in a game. I think they'd be more prepared for those roles than they would have been if it was the old rule, like you're saying, where you only had up to a certain amount of games and then you'd lose your red shirt.
Would you like to see them maybe just give everybody 5 years and you can play, and it's not necessarily even the 4-game rule going forward, especially on the lines of scrimmage? It seems like
it's funny you say that, because when I was a 1AA coach, that was a big thing, and I was always in favor, especially in 1AA, because when you look at special teams, with lesser scholarships, you really wanted to play some of the quality kids, but not at the expense of losing one of their 4 years of eligibility. So I think it puts you in less predicaments and less hard decisions. And they're here working their tails off, both academically and athletically. Why not have the opportunity to utilize all the years?
What have you seen so far from Rondell Bothroyd? How difficult of a journey back for him was it, and just how good is it to see him, back on the field?
Well, it's great having him back on the field. He's very physical at the point of attack. Of course, last year, not only did he play outside, but he started for us 5 games inside. So at the point of attack, it was really helpful against Virginia Tech. He was very physical and made 2 or 3 good plays by setting the edge and just controlling his area. He, like everybody else, including myself as a coach, we're all a work in progress. And, he's not where he was or can and will be, but I think he's working in the right direction.
Does getting him back in the mix, you talked about him playing some on the inside, it seems that gives you some flexibility in what you do out there, and you can kind of put some different packages out there.
It does. It's allowed us to put Boogie both strong and weak, where before that he was just playing strong. So it definitely gives us flexibility. It gives us snap count where it's lighting the load of some guys and just allows them to stay fresher. There's no doubt about it.
I was curious, as you are able to rotate guys inside a little bit more, frankly, because of having guys out and stuff early, do you feel like you've developed more depth there? Do you like where your depth's at inside right now?
I think we do. We've missed Tyler the last few weeks. Tyler's been out now. I guess he's been out, 2.5 games now. But it's allowed a guy like Justin Williams to step up and get probably anywhere between a dozen and 20 snaps a game as a redshirt freshman. So I think he's going to grow, and we'll see that development because of this experience for him. Once we get Tyler back, we'll even have more guys rotating in.
not to go back in the Wayback Machine too far, Dave, but some of what we heard coming out of the first couple games, especially NC State, was that the worry as a whole from the defensive staff was the back end of the defense, and that maybe there was a bit of overcompensation in trying to protect that back end, and maybe that's what led to some of the, yardage you gave up against NC State. Did you find that to be true?
I don't know. I don't. I think like anytime you don't play well on defense, I think there's coaching that could have been better. I know in my case, I could have done a better job preparing my guys, and I didn't. And I think there's some areas where we could have played better at certain positions and certain plays. And usually it's a group effort, I'd like to think, even though the players were 99% the reason we played so well at Virginia Tech, I think Coach Hempel's defensive system and everybody implementing it maybe could have made up for 1% of it. So we're in this together, and I think there's areas I could have done a better job preparing those guys, and I didn't at NC State. And I think since then they've done a better job preparing as well on their own.
I know you're a competitor, and you always want to play a game, but as you rewind a little bit, having that Notre Dame game kind of pushed back, did that give you 2 or 3 weeks to kind of retool and refine what you were doing?
Yeah, I think in some ways it was a very frustrating time for our players. Our defensive players were really frustrated because they wanted to get back on the field. They knew they were better than how they played. We knew as coaches we're better coaches than how we played. So it was a little bit of a teeth-grinding wait there. But I think it allowed us to look at some different things, allow some guys to get healthy. You look at guys like our back-end guys, some of those young DBs are going to be really good, and it gave them more experience and time to get ready, having that extra week from the Notre Dame.
Do you feel like your depth is better than it's been in a while in terms of just you have a nice mix of older guys and then some really young talented guys that you're getting into the mix now as well? Do you feel like you guys are maybe a little bit deeper on the line than you've been since you've been here?
Yeah, I mean, we are. We have more guys that have played. Again, I think that's a positive, and it's a credit for how hard they do play when they get in. But I still think, like I said earlier, we're a work in progress, and I think there's areas to improve upon. And the biggest area is defeating blocks and winning one-on-one matchups. But yeah, I mean, we're playing anywhere between 7 and 9 defensive linemen every game. And I think it makes practice in the meeting room a better environment because more guys know that they're involved in the scheme and our planning. And obviously you're more engaged when you know you're going to play than when there's a chance you're not going to.
I know he's not on your specific position group, but did you kind of catch on that this Nick Anderson was going to be a player this year at any time in camp? Was he somebody that you noticed as well?
It's funny because Coach Hempel kept talking about him in camp, and I'm kind of like I'm like a horse with blinders. I'm kind of just watching my guys, and he kept talking about him, and then there was this guy every night that would interrupt our meeting with like sticky notes of questions of the film he was watching on his own. And then I started to take notice more and more and more, and we're lucky to have him. And none of his success is by chance. He does an unbelievable job of preparing. He's extremely thorough. He's extremely bright, and it's very important to him.
How would you rate the progress this season of Ja'Cory Johns?
I think he the last 2 games he's played better, and I would hope he continues to show improvement. He's played a little bit less because of the Rondell addition to the outside rotation, but we'll continue to evaluate and hope that he continues to improve. And again, there's another guy that we just need to win more one-on-one blocks, and that's really across the board. It's not just he; it's all of them, and it's all of us. I got to help them get better too.
How disappointed was Boogie to not get a tackle for loss in the Syracuse game?
At first he said, "I'm not coming out," and then I put my arm around him. I said, "Could you imagine if you're sitting at home on the bed with a cast on or something, God forbid, because you wanted to get 1 TFL at a game we were ahead 38-7 or whatever it was?" And he just kind of smiled. And to be honest with you, I thought he was celebrating it as much as any of the other players after the game. Boogie is starting to develop to become a good leader for us, and it's nice to see.
The camera showed him, and he seemed like he was pretty jovial. It didn't look like he was down at all. So
no, and I think that's a good sign that what's really important is really important.
Who should we be looking for in the back end of the season to kind of emerge potentially from your group? Is there somebody right on the cusp of making more of an impact?
Well, the guy I think that just gets better every time he takes the field is Miles Fox. I think he's one of the unheralded guys on the defense that really makes plays and causes havoc inside. I just had to get that out there. That really has nothing to do with the question you asked. Sorry. But I think he's doing a nice job. It would be great at some point to get Tyler healthy and get him involved where he has been. But to answer your question, I would be disappointed if Rondell didn't take a step every week as he's starting to play on a regular basis and getting a little bit more confident on that knee.
Do we know about how much longer we'll be without Tyler?
I don't know. My fingers are crossed. I mean, it could be as early as getting his feet wet next game to, maybe the Duke game. So we're just waiting to hear back from the trainers as, we're still 8 days away from that game.
Hey, Dave.
No, I'm sorry. We are 15 days away from that game. Excuse me.
Hey, Dave. Sorry I showed up
Dave.
late. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Good. I'm curious as to, I think media and fans in a way look at stats. So you look at, for defensive linemen, sacks and tackles for loss.
Mm-hmm.
For your tackles, your defensive tackles, when you watch film or video afterwards, what are you looking for? What do you look at?
It's a great question, Dave. There's a big thing we've done here, and we started doing this when we first got here with Coach Elko, and we got it from one of the NFL guys. We chart anytime they have a one-on-one block, we chart their wins and losses. And that's the biggest thing to us, more so than statistics, because you could be unblocked and make a tackle for a loss, and that's great, and everyone's excited in the stands, but really you did nothing to get there. So what we do every year, we chart the first team All-ACC defensive linemen in the ACC, obviously, and we chart their wins and losses. And we have that on the defensive line board. So there's 4 people. Boogie's one of them because he was first team All-ACC along with the other 3 guys. And then every practice in camp and now every game, they have what their win and loss was for that particular game most recently, and then their overall win-loss for the season. And once you get over 60%, you're playing well. And that's where we're at now, is charting that stuff, which I think is more important than the statistics. Like, for example, against Syracuse, Miles had 2 or 3 pass pressures where there was no sack, and it wasn't even contact, but he was close enough. He made an effect. Maybe some of those were wins, and that's a good job. So the statistics are nice. Normally they'll come when you have more wins than losses. And how they handle a block. We can take a double team on and not get moved, and that's a win. And maybe Ryan Smenda makes the tackle, and it's a win for everybody. And like I said earlier, that we could be unblocked and make a tackle, and we kind of dumbed into it. It's not a matter of earning it or having the victory to get it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that a tackle or anyone on the line can do their job just by forcing the play a certain way. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, like Virginia Tech, the inside guys really did a nice job of forcing the ball to bounce. And none of that shows up on the stat sheet. That's just part of their position, you know what I mean? And so the wins and loss, I think, as going over the course of our 7th season here now, that usually indicates how well a guy played as a defensive lineman. How many, and again, not every player is a win or a loss. You can be the right end. If everything goes to the left,
right,
you don't get a win or a loss. But when there's contact and it's that stuff normally holds up to how well the guys play.
Thank you.
No problem.
Obviously, Dave, it's been a weird season, a weird camp, a weird, everything for you guys. What's been the biggest hurdle for you to tackle as a defensive line coach in this season in which you only had 5 spring camp sessions and the summer away from your team? What was toughest thing for you all to kind of tackle on the defensive line?
I don't know, Les, without really giving it a lot of thought, as you just asked it, I don't know necessarily if it's harder on the defensive lineman, or I don't know if the challenges and struggles are much different between myself or the other coaches. But, our players right now, they're students and they're football players. The college life part of their experience is down to a minimum. And to their credit, socially distancing and doing all the things that are right to be negative testing in the COVID, it's just, it's not as much happy and go lucky. And there's less to their college experience right now as there is for any student on campus, let alone a student athlete. So, and then, you look at how long we've practiced. We're normally in the final 2 or 3 laps of our season, now that we're saying it's November 7th tomorrow, or I think it is, right? Normally you have 2 or 3 games left. We've got 5 games and 6 weeks left. It's been long. They've been locked up, for lack of a better term. I shouldn't use that, but locked down, or however you look at it. The guys have been committed to being COVID-free and good football players and good teammates since July. And when that Notre Dame game got canceled or postponed, and then we had that dead time, there was a sense of frustration. And guys, the game day is what their reward is right now for being COVID-free and for socially distancing and wearing a mask. And when we travel, I don't know if you know, we wear masks and we have shields, and which is great. And that's one of the reasons we've had success with following all those protocols. But there are some sacrifices that they and every other student on our campus that has kept the numbers down make. So I think there's a little less laughs and a little less experiences that get them away from the hard work in the classroom and on the field.
Dave, I'm interested in Sue Kamara. Had him in class a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think Dave alluded last year that he wasn't going to come back, and then he did end up coming back. What has he turned into?
It's funny. Both that last season and this season, to this point, thus far, they've kind of mirrored each other, where he kind of comes in happy-go-lucky Sue, as you know him, smiling and chilling out, and then we challenge him, and then he responds, and he's really played better as of late, as he did last year from the middle of the season on as well. And he's a fun guy to be around, but he's even funner when he plays as hard as he laughs, and he has. And so it's been enjoyable, and I call him our union rep, because if there's anything we can get an extra hour of sleep or an extra cookie or whatever it might be to help the boys, or one less lap of laps, the union rep's going to stand up for the boys.
That's one of those, I'm guessing, stories where you as his position coach, it's been a struggle at times, but to see him when it clicks, it's gratifying.
His smile can light up a room and you'll love it. But every once in a while, like you said, you have to kick the old, get him going. And once he gets going, it's worth it. And he's really an emotional leader. When he's right, I think there's more energy on defense. I really do. So,
Big game coming next Saturday. What's the key to getting you guys ready after this bye week for a really big game against UNC?
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely unique challenge for us, Les. When you look at the Virginia Tech team we had to defend, where you knew if you can minimize their run game, you're probably going to have a good day on defense. These guys are top 2 or 3 in the ACC in rushing. They're the top offense in the ACC. They're top 5 in the country because they're balanced and they equally throw and run the ball. They have one of the best running backs I've seen. The quarterback is outstanding, and their receiving threats are good. The offensive line, with the exception of one young man, it's the same offensive line we played a year ago. So it's an experience. Nobody's really slowed them down when you look at it. They've had a lot of success, and they're a big play capability. So we've got to minimize the big plays. And, Coach Hemp has a tough job in that, you can't cheat everything against the pass, and you can't load the box against the run because they are an equal threat. So we've got to stay balanced, and we've got to be aggressive, and then at times double cover guys and play more pass. You just got to keep on rolling out the different concepts to keep them intact there, and our guys got to play hard because it's amazing. The harder guys run to the football, the more potential problems or mistakes are erased, and then there's overlap because guys are erasing other people's mistakes. So we got to play hard, and we've got to minimize the big plays.
I know it's not necessarily your forte or your side of the ball, but UNC, where you said they're kind of hard to stop, they also haven't stopped a whole lot of people. So you got to figure your offense is going to put some points on the board.
I think you guys are talking to Coach Higgins at some point this afternoon.
We are.
You do a way better job answering that loaded one than me.
But my point is, if you can just get a couple key stops, it seems like that could be the difference in the game, right?
Yeah, you'd certainly want to go into it a little more confidence and aggressive nature than that. But you're right, Les. I mean, it's not like it's probably not going to be the same score that the Virginia Tech game was. So, I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Of course, we all thought that would be high scoring too. So, this could be 6-3 for all we know.
It'd be great if the 6 was at for the Deacons. It could be 6-3 and it could be 59-56. If we're on the upper hand, I'm a happy man. So.
Have you enjoyed playing the coastal teams? And it's such a different schedule than you guys would normally play, to play both Virginia schools in the same year and play Carolina and Duke. And I imagine that's got to be a lot different and probably enjoyable to get a little bit of change.
Yeah, I don't know, Kelly. I mean, you compete, you try and win, and it's a challenge every week. And, whether you're playing Michigan State in a bowl game or you're playing Clemson or you're playing ODU, if we were to play them this year, which we were supposed to, it's just that week and that challenge. And as a coach, you kind of try and break it down to a 1-week season. And the only thing that was pretty cool last year, which we didn't have this year, if you're talking about coastal, I thought playing at Virginia Tech was kind of neat. Kind of like that experience, the Sandman. But we really haven't been in any new stadiums. We've been up in the Dome. Of course, they're not a coastal team. And we play NC State every year as well. So, probably would be a neater situation if you were to see new campuses or new stadiums. But if we can keep doing what we're doing and winning against those schools, yeah, sounds great to me.
I think playing at Pitt in 23, I think, is the first trip up there.
Wow. I hope it's earlier in the year, Dave.
You and me both.
I hope it's earlier in the year. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, you guys good? All right.
Thanks,
All right,
Dave.
thanks for your time,
Thanks,
guys.
Dave.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you or talk to you soon. Thanks, Will. Thanks, guys.